Hello and welcome to a very special edition of Bull and Specs. This is our Christmas edition with me, Shane O'Connor, and Adrian Lacey. If you've not been with us before, we mull over some of the things that are happening in the news. And of course, Christmas time, Adrian, no exception, the news still rolls on. Very often at this time of year, they have stock stories, don't they? Like homelessness is one that kind of comes around every Christmas, and you think they never bother about it for 11 months and 3 weeks of the year, and then all of a sudden it's a big issue. The other one I've noticed this year is the amount of waste at Christmas. I think Sky did a poll and said that it was unacceptable, the amount of waste. I've thought this for a long time. What about you? Do you ever kind of like look at the piles of paper, wrapping paper, and think, man, what are we doing?
Oh, absolutely. And the problem is, of course, the moment you get some glitter on it, I think it can't be recycled. Is that your understanding?
I think you're absolutely right, yeah. And some of the foily stuff as well, isn't it? That ruins recycling as well, I think. Some of if it's got like foil decoration on it and stuff like that as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they've done this poll and they said that half of Britons will be happy to receive an unwrapped Christmas gift. Really? Yeah. I don't think so. I think when they came down to it, I think they would say no. But what's the matter with wrapping it in newspaper, for example?
I did think that, as long as it's quality news that doesn't sort of upset you and give you indigestion.
I don't believe it. What, you didn't want socks? No, he's wrapped it in the Times, the bounder.
And I'm a Guardian reader.
Well, you see, I'm old enough to remember when in this country they used to wrap fish and chips in newspaper.
Do you have to be that old?
I think so, yeah, because didn't they ban it? And they stopped it now. They used to wrap it completely in newspaper, and then they said, oh no, the newsprint was getting on the chips, so it was bad. So then they used a sheet of white paper, and then all the additional papers were newspaper. And now I don't think there's any fish and chip shops. Correct me if I'm wrong. Have you seen any fish and chip shops that have got newspaper wrapping?
I don't have it that often these days. Although, actually, no, if I do, it tends to be in a pub. But I tell you what, there's at least one company that's actually mimicking the newspaper. Have you seen that? I think it's Loch Tay, which is a chain of fish restaurants. No. And, it's like a fancy fish and chip shop, I suppose, amongst other things that it does. And they've actually printed their own daily news or something, or the Loch Tay News.
Wow.
Presumably with this special organic ink that doesn't kill you. We have to hope.
Anyway, back to Christmas. I had a conversation. Was it this last year or the year before? Somebody I knew, and I said, "What was your Christmas like?" Sometime in January, and they said, "Oh, it's okay." I spent $4,000 on Christmas, and I said, "How can you spend?" I'm not sure.
Wow.
So, well, that was a big turkey. How can you spend $4,000 on Christmas? And all right, you got kids and all the rest of it, but we go absolutely nuts. And they talk about the waste of wrapping paper and what a waste that is. What about the presents that we buy that we don't really need? What I call stuff. Here's an example. Was it last year? I think we said, right, we'll do something different. Have you ever tried to do it where you don't send? You don't do Christmas presents. I do that with my brother and some other members of the family. I say, look, rather than you buy something that I don't really want and me give you something that you really don't really want, why don't we just not exchange Christmas gifts? I still love you and I still think the world of you, and we kind of do that now, which is quite a great way of doing it. But last year, me and my wife, we did a pound shop Christmas. Have you ever done this?
No. Well, I have had a price limit, but not specifically pound shop.
Best one we've had in a long time for gifts, because it was just, you have to be so, and you can go to any pound shop you like. You can get it from a number of pound shops if you want, but your budget is £5.
Oh, I've done. Yeah, that's exactly the budget I had previously.
So you get 5 gifts
before the pound shops started.
And we did it for my dad as well. We included my dad in it, and got him. And he didn't believe us. He said, "Why have you bought me all these things? I can't. Why have you spent all your money?" And I said, "No." We spent £5, and we got him a book, some socks. He wanted a torch. He wanted a little LED torch or something. So we got him one of those. We got him all these great, and we spent £5. And you kind of, it really just kind of reigns the whole. I mean, I would say to anybody, if you think it's all getting out of control, have a pound shop Christmas and see, make the budget £10 if you want, and you can have 10 presents each. But it was just. Yeah. It was absolutely amazing to just kind of rein it in, and to me it's not so much the wrapping waste; it's that kind of waste. It's the buying the stuff that people don't need that kind of gets to me. I haven't had a present off my wife for years.
Really?
And
you're still together.
Yeah, and only because we don't. We're buying stuff that we don't need because we feel that we have to get a gift. Do you exchange gifts with your wife?
I do, but I think she never quite left childhood on this front, because she does like to have, well, mercifully small gifts, but lots of them.
Right.
But she is actually a cheap date. Here's the thing.
She'd be a great pound shop Christmas candidate.
I think, yeah. Can you get, because she loves Ferrero Rocher. So a cheap date on that front.
Oh, wow. I hate them.
Presumably you could get those at the pound store.
I'll post you all mine if you like then, because I can't bear the blooming things. I think they're vile, really are. But yeah, so she likes like little... You see, we used to do that as a kid. We used to have little gifts, little inexpensive gifts. So we'd have lots of Christmas presents.
Mm.
And but I think I mentioned to you before off air, one of my greatest Christmas gifts ever was, because I've got an older brother, was a hand-me-down from my brother. All wrapped the same as a normal gift, but he had Subbuteo and he'd had enough of it, and I really wanted Subbuteo. So rather than my parents going out and buying another set of Subbuteo, they said to my brother, "Do you want?" And he went, "No, Shane can have it." So they wrapped it up for me for Christmas, and I was just, do you know what I mean? As a kid, you don't go, well, what a pair of cheapskates my parents are. I can't believe they did that. And it was only as an adult that I appreciated it even more, because I thought it was genius. They knew what I wanted. And rather than go, like nowadays, parents would go, well, I can't give them that one. I'll have to go out and buy a new one.
Yeah.
We've got it all wrong. I think.
You have to wonder, where does that pressure come from? It's coming from so many different angles, isn't it, I guess?
Well, it's coming from the parents, isn't it, surely? I mean, you're telling me parents are under pressure to buy their kids' affection. I mean, let's be honest with you. Most of the parents who buy their youngsters an iPad, they'd be happier playing with the box, most of them, wouldn't they? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's projection, I think. They're projecting onto their kids what they'd like their kids to, what they think they'd like to have.
And also, perhaps, those who are less easily satisfied than you with your hand-me-down Subbuteo, they're trying to compensate
like
for
some kind of weirdo now.
No, I love it. I think it's really cute. The point is, your elder brother was growing out of it. You were growing into it, and what could be more ecologically friendly?
Can I just say,
that would have been the reason they did it.
Can I just say I've still got it as well?
Have you?
Yeah.
Are you going to hand it down to Frank, your newborn?
Yeah, that's the plan, I guess. I'd certainly show it him and say, "What do you make of this? This is what we played with. It wasn't computer games. This was our computer game kind of thing."
I never thought that. I thought we were the last generation for parents to say, "Oh, you can't believe you're born today."
Nah.
In our day, because of course that was the well, for my older parents, it was they were comparing it with the war and rationing and all of that.
Yeah.
So when people look back to the 70s and say, "Oh, we didn't have much," my mindset is actually coming from my parents saying, "You can't believe how much you have got."
Yeah.
So
I think that it's a slightly different conversation. Is it? You say to your youngsters today, "We can't believe how overcomplicated your life is, how over sophisticated you're trying to make it. We had pleasures that were simpler," so which kind of is a similar kind of conversation to the one that our parents had. What about Christmas cards? What do you think? I've got a pile in there because Angelina teaches, so she gets a lot off the kids that she teaches, which is lovely. And I've got to put them all up, but I'm not kidding you. I've got a pile about 6 inches high of Christmas cards, and you do kind of think, that is a bit of a waste. They're saying, really, you should be, why don't we just send digital greetings cards now? Why isn't that taken off?
Well, for me it has.
Has it?
More with birthdays, actually, I have to say. I speak as someone who, so much for my digital lifestyle, I had a warning, which I programmed into my diary, about my brother's birthday. There's a slight excuse in that he's in Canada, so you have to think a few days ahead.
Right.
But I actually looked at my diary and I'd put a warning in, I think, 17 days ahead. The trouble is, 17 days ahead, it seems irrelevant, so I just ignore it.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
And guess what?
I
was late, even with the electronic card. So there's absolutely no excuse for that. It's mad, but it did get me out of a scrape of being even later.
Would you do the same with Christmas cards? Would you say, right, okay, have you sent? Because I don't write. The wife writes all the Christmas cards. I wouldn't send them if it was down to me.
Right.
I haven't sent a Christmas card in over 20 years.
Shame on you.
No, I did a social experiment one year to see. I didn't send any cards, and I got a load of cards, and then I thought, right, the next year, how many will I get? And the number just went because I hadn't sent any the previous year. People were only sending, and again, it's the present thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's habitual. People were sending to me because I sent them to them, and you know, I kind of cut it all out, and I didn't send them in the end.
the only thing I've got about that, but even as I say it, it sounds like a gripe, given how busy people can be, particularly with children. I don't see the point of just writing something that could have actually been written by a computer, right? Merry Christmas from us, and nothing else. I'd rather have fewer
that's what
cards with a
Moonpig
bit
is,
more
isn't
in.
it? I don't know if you've seen those Moonpig. I hate Moonpig cards because they're
bespoke ones.
Yeah, they're so impersonal, aren't they? I mean, now I think you can get them sent to you, can't you, where you can actually write something in them.
Right. So you have to think ahead.
For even more than 17 days.
There's no chance.
Or not, as the case may be.
As I always say, I was born 10 days late and I've never made up the time.
Yeah. You've been behind ever since. Well, as a final point on the waste of Christmas and all that sort of stuff, it was just an elaborate ruse to find out why you hadn't sent me either a digital or an analogue Christmas card yet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, now you mention it. Hi there, this is a special festive edition of Bull and Specs with me, Adrian, and him, Shane. And I want to talk about those Christmas ads because they've become a big thing, haven't they, in recent years? Are you across any of the big ones doing the rounds?
They're a big... Do you know what? The thing I don't realise when it happened all of a sudden was it became a competition. Have you noticed? The last couple of years, wasn't it? It's really become a competition between retailers to have the number one Christmas advert. But yeah, I've been looking at some of that. Have you got a favourite yet? Have you got one that you picked out as a favourite Christmas ad?
I've certainly got one with a favourite tune because there's a story attached. You're a bit of a Beatles fan, aren't you? Like me?
Yeah, I know the one you're on about now. I didn't know it was a Beatles tune. That's how much of a Beatles fan I am.
Oh, dear.
But then my favourite Beatles album would have to be The Best of the Beatles.
Is that the red or the blue one?
Yeah, Alan Partridge would say. I think it would have to be The Best of the Beatles. Go on anyway. So you've got one with a favourite tune in.
Yeah, sorry, I was forgetting my prop. Bear with me. And if you can't see this, I'm going to make some tinsely noise. I'm just putting on the fifth piece of tinsel. I couldn't pronounce that last time, but apparently with a bit of rehearsal, I can now say it.
The fifth tinsel.
Right, my favourite is John Lewis, not because of the storyline, although people may remember seeing the monster. This is the monster of a child's imagining, we suppose.
Yes.
But the song, which it's covered by Elbow, it is originally a Beatles track, and there's a lovely story attached. It's Golden Slumbers. Does that mean if you don't know that track, you are not that across Abbey Road, where it comes from?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I don't know. I'd have to go back and do a bit of digging, really. But yeah, I don't know why I didn't. Maybe I do know the song, but I just didn't pick it up. I don't know.
Right. Well, the thing is, it's my favourite album. I have to say, I can at least claim that I'm not old enough to remember it coming out, or at least it wasn't in the family home. But we had some slightly funkier neighbours next door. And they had it. They had this whizzy new machine, a stereo cassette player with 2 speakers. Tell the kids of today and all of that. And I absolutely fell in love with this album, and I'll probably well up just talking about it. That's all it takes. Golden Slumber is not necessarily my favourite track, but there are so many good ones. I even like the ones that people diss because I heard it around the age of 10. I still like Maxwell's Silver Hammer, for instance, which you're not meant to like as a proper grown-up Beatles fan. Right. But Golden Slumbers, I love the story attached to it. So the John Lewis ad has a cover, as I say, by Elbow. But Paul McCartney had... because if you're Paul McCartney, the people who come around to your dinner parties are big names as well. Dustin Hoffman, I believe it was, came round to one dinner party, and maybe a little wine was consumed, and towards the end of the evening, Dustin Hoffman sort of had a bet with Paul. Can you write a song around anything I give you? And Paul, maybe refreshed, I don't know. I don't want to be sued. But he said, yeah, sure, I can do that. So Dustin Hoffman gives him a poem by a monk, I believe it is, from the 14th century. And that is the lyrics that accompany the John Lewis Christmas ad.
Oh, wow.
I can't give you chapter and verse on exactly which monk and which monastery, but I'm pretty sure it's 14th century.
But it was obviously a setup as well, wasn't it? Because you don't go, right, I'm off to dinner at the McCartney's. I've got my wallet, I've got my keys, and I've got my 14th century monk's poem. Do you know what I mean?
No.
So it's got to be a setup, hasn't it, really?
Well, you can be cynical about that, or he might have gone to the bookshelves in the McCartney household, which you might imagine, because Paul's, one of your brighter pop stars. They might have been groaning with heavy tomes of deep literature. I don't know.
He could have still been living with the Ashers, couldn't he? Who were quite a brainy family as well, weren't they?
Well, they were, yes. Yeah. Of course, in Harley Street.
It's funny you were saying that the track was by Elbow, because I thought it was by. Can I say arse?
Oh, you don't know one from the other, do you?
Exactly. That's I always get confused with those. There you go.
Oh, that recalls the lovely. This is going off topic, but not that far off. Do you know the Blackadder? You must know this. Blackadder goes forth, and there's a beautiful setup, but you don't know at the time it's the setup earlier in the piece. And Blackadder says it's the First World War and in the trenches and all of that. And Blackadder must say earlier in the scene he doesn't know his. So we're allowed to say arse on this podcast.
Oh, I see. So okay, yeah.
You said it now.
Okay.
So he doesn't know his arse from his elbow. And then at the end of the scene, Baldrick, played, of course, by the inimitable Tony Robinson, who's not meant to be that bright a character, says, well, we can't spend all day sitting on our elbows.
Yeah. Just rolling back to that John Lewis ad as well, doesn't make sense to me, because the monster is a friendly monster and is his friend. And he kind of kills his only friend at the end of it, and it doesn't. And I thought, this is weird, doesn't make sense. And then I saw the creative team behind it, and there was a photo of them, and they're all women apart from one person. And I thought, that's why it doesn't make sense. It's because they've overloaded on gender imbalance. there aren't enough men. You see, if you wanted a balance, you'd have the same amount of men and the same amount of women, and they were all white as well.
Oh no!
And I thought, so that's quite interesting. Is that in something like advertising, you would think they'd all be right on and and PC and all the rest of it. But yeah, there were predominantly women that created that ad, and it doesn't make sense. There's a few of them that make sense. Have you seen the Vodafone one with Martin Freeman?
Oh, I have to say I love those. I started by thinking. It's not usually the best point of your career if you're doing an ad like that. He will, of course, have been minted off the back of it, so financially he'll be very, very comfortable.
The least he'd have got was a free phone, wouldn't it?
And possibly some data to go with it for a month.
He might have got a SIM card pay as you go as well.
Someone puts this bag on the desk and he says, what's that? It's full of noughts and ones. It's data. Arrange them in any order you see fit.
I love it. The interesting thing with that one, though, is that you say, yes, I've seen them. Now, it was only in the research for this podcast that I actually saw all of them in order, and I didn't realise there were about six of them. I've only seen the first one and the one where she's at the castle, and it doesn't make sense.
No, this is the recurring theme, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there's no way that you can actually, unless you very strictly only release one episode at a time of your ad, you would expect to release it or air it in story order. But in this day and age where people are time shifting and recording stuff, they're busy. Yeah, there's absolutely no guarantee they're going to see it. They might see all the right ads, but not necessarily in the right order, to quote a Christmas show.
It kind of gets all a bit weird as well. McDonald's seem to be advertising carrot sticks, which I don't kind of really know how that one works. And
then there's Kevin the Carrot.
He's my favourite.
In the Aldi, isn't it?
I love Aldi, and
Aldi,
I think Kevin, or Aldi, however you pronounce it, but I think Kevin the Carrot to me is just when he gets hit by a pea in one of the adverts.
Oh yes, I think I've peed myself.
I think I peed myself, which I just laugh out loud moment. I thought was absolutely fabulous. There's a few of them. Oh, sorry, the other one, because you're quite close to London. Heathrow Bears. Have you seen the Heathrow Bears?
No, I don't think so. But
If you do nothing else this Christmas, honestly, it'll warm your heart.
Sorry, I have. I've seen them. I think they've been in the background. Maybe even a station I was at. With no sound attached, so I've never quite followed the story. But they're quite cute looking, aren't they?
But it's basically, and then they become real people, kind of thing. And I think that's for Heathrow. I think is a fabulous advertising campaign as well. But the ones that have really come unstuck this year, Adrian, is the ones that have tried to force the political correctness. And have you seen this when they've got really heavily criticised on social media? I think Co-op was one of them. I think where it's like it was like this kind of utopian United Colours of Benetton kind of advert, and you kind of think, well, it was a bit forced. But was it Sainsbury's? I can't remember which one it was. One of the ads where they kind of like, that it was all about, and they got like Muslims celebrating Christmas. And people, they slaughtered them on social media. I mean, they got no time for it at all. It was really quite interesting to see that, something that they thought, will do really well, people viewed as just being cynical. I thought was quite interesting.
Well, it always makes me laugh if someone who happens to be have roots outside the UK, but they might be second or third generation Asian heritage and so on.
Yeah.
When they say we don't really celebrate Christmas, but we go along with it, and I think, well, I don't go to church, and I'm not celebrating it as a religious festival these days. I have my religious past.
I think that's what upsets a lot of people, isn't it? Is that we don't celebrate it as a religious festival. I don't know.
Although, well, if you go back to the history of it, actually it was a pagan festival which the Christians adopted because it was easier. I think the story is that it was easier to sort of celebrate a bit undercoverish under the guise of you're taking part in the pagan festival. So it's only going back to its roots. It's pagan again.
I'm not saying that they were right. What I'm saying is that people viewed it as a cynical attempt to capitalise on politically correct multiculturalism, rather than just saying, look, we're a supermarket, come and buy our tins of peas or what. You know what I mean? It was that. I think it's a fine line you tread, isn't it, as a retailer, as to whether you can be perceived as genuine in your message or whether you're just being it's a cynical attempt to try and get my money. You know what I mean?
Well, surely every advertising campaign in the history of advertising campaigns is ultimately to get your money.
Oh yeah, but the secret is not letting people cotton on to the fact that that's what you try. That's what good advertising is, isn't it? Where you go,
yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. That is really the saddest one for me this year has got to be the Toys R Us, because they're so close to the brink of.
Oh gosh, yes, it's
collapse.
It's very very poignant, isn't it?
Yeah,
and particularly people who are. I'm just scrolling down subtly, so you wouldn't notice. See, that's the trick of a true.
It's like good advertising, isn't it? Scrolling.
Yeah, you don't. So Toys R Us, 30-second commercial centres around a giraffe called Jeffrey.
Oh, well done.
I can speak Brummie now.
Brummie.
And for what was the Victoria Wood line? And for our viewers in the north, we're very sorry for you.
Yeah, I mean, somebody did put on social media, with the Toys R Us situation. They said, "Well, you deserve everything you get if you put a giraffe in charge of your business." But I don't think.
Obviously, they were sticking their neck out. Oh, please,
dear,
come on.
Dear. So go on then. Have you got a favourite ad? I mean, you said you got one with favourite music in. Is that going to be your favourite one as well for this Christmas?
Well, see, music carries it for me, but I have to say I'm very impressed by Argos. That's not a phrase I often come out with. Certainly their ads. I mean, these ads, they must be on near movie budgets these days. They've got all the kind of sensibility, the qualities of a movie look, haven't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think the Argos one, particularly with a plane taking off, or someone trying to stop a plane taking off without a certain gift, very impressive in terms of production values, if we may use that phrase.
Yeah,
of a 30-second ad.
I think you're quite right. All right, you go for that. I've got to go for Kevin the Carrot. And my favourite line, they said he was gonna love his. I can't remember what his girlfriend's called, but he's gonna love her until the day he's diced.
Oh,
Which-
oh, that is nice.
You're listening to the Bull and Specs podcast with Shane O'Connor and Adrian Lacey. It's our Christmas special, so we're looking at some of the Christmas stories that are making the news over the festive period. And I didn't realise it was so dangerous, Adrian. I was just looking at one of these stories, the 6 most bizarre festive injuries I managed to find. And I sent you the story. You started to have a look at them and said, actually, maybe we shouldn't look at these beforehand because they're so bizarre. The reaction is going to be as good as some of the injuries there. But you've seen some of these, haven't you? Some of these injuries.
Yes, a slight swizz at the beginning. Well, the top line reads, was a girl puts a bell in her ear so she can hear jingle bells. Turns out she's only 4 years old, so maybe we could cut her a bit of slack on that one.
Yeah,
and if it turned out she was 34, then that would be different.
You've got more of an issue, haven't you? And I don't. Do you know what? I kind of those are the ones where you look at it and you go, oh, that's a bit of a worry kind of thing. How did that end up? You know what I mean? It's not. There's no hilarity to be had in a 4-year-old sticking a bell in their ear and getting that stuck over Christmas. But they do go on. There was the 28-year-old woman who was putting up an ornament when the bar stool slipped under her, causing, and I quote here, vaginal trauma from the landing.
Hang on, is landing a euphemism? I've got vaginal trauma from my landing.
I thought she was on the landing. I thought she was at the top of the stairs. I didn't realise that's what they meant. But I mean, it's a bit like, I don't know. You watch You've Been Framed. I don't know if you still watch it now. I mean, they're all the clips from the 1980s, so there's not a lot of point of watching the thing in the first place.
No,
but when I turn into my dad, I sit there watching You've Been Framed, and I go, well, it's a wonder they don't kill themselves, these people. What on earth were they thinking? And it's that kind of thing, isn't it, really, where you think, if you're not good on a stepladder or whatever, don't start putting your decorations up yourself. Don't do it yourself, maybe. I don't know.
And she probably muttered an oath that sounded like bar stool when she fell off. That was the bloke who should have gone up there for her and refused to.
Yeah, bar stool.
Now, number 3, an unnamed 36-year-old man. So we're going to have to seek out every 36-year-old man in the country.
Why do they say that in newspapers?
I don't know.
Because they haven't named the previous 2. So
no.
So anyway, go on. Yeah, an unnamed 36-year-old man.
Maybe they're trying to protect his identity because you can't really hold your head high, literally or otherwise, when you've swallowed a drawing pin. I know. And he was putting up Christmas decorations when he looked up and sneezed.
Oh! Do you
That's got to hurt.
Yeah, and that one is a bit close to home actually, because that put me in mind of putting up Christmas cards the other day. We've got like a kind of wooden beam in the lounge because it's a kind of oldie worldy sort of thing. We've got this big wooden beam above the fireplace, and I was putting Christmas cards in with drawing pins because I thought we won't bother that. And I caught myself. Have you ever done that where you put a couple of drawing pins in your mouth? So that you don't have to, and there, but for the grace of God, and one sneeze, go
No,
on.
I've never done that, but I've trod on one or two in my time because that's not much fun.
I sat on a radiator bracket once.
That sounds like a Bernard Manning setup. What are my friends like?
It's true. Do you know the radiator bracket? You know they're like long brackets that fit on the wall. And then the radiator hooks onto them.
Oh yeah! They're very well. They're like I think the police would class them as a sort of offensive weapon, wouldn't they?
Yeah,
they were used out of context.
They're quite narrow, quite sharp.
Oh.
And I bent down, and kind of my bum slid down the wall, and it went straight into. What are you laughing at?
You shouldn't laugh at nothing. You get a chance to respond in kind now.
Hang on. Let me tell you.
Sorry, you haven't finished.
Went straight into the cheek of my bum.
Oh,
right?
no, it's getting worse.
To the point where, I went, and you freeze, don't you, when you've done something like that? And I'm going, oh, God. And I kind of felt down, and it gone through my trouser and into my bum. And so I had to go and pull it out.
Oh, no, I didn't like that movement.
Oh, and we'll do it again.
Neither did you.
Do it again.
No, please.
I had to pull it out like that. And yeah. In fact, I still get twinges just looking at a radiator.
Well, this was the year that I swallowed a wasp back in the summer.
No way.
Yeah, and that led to a hospital visit. It's because I was being tight. I had an early shift, and the thing about an early shift is you can drink at lunchtime guilt-free. Because lunchtime is your evening.
Yes, of course.
You'll know this as a oftentimes breakfast presenter. So my alarm had gone off at 20 to 3. By the time you get to lunchtime, or as other earthlings call it, normal human beings call it, you feel like, I could murder a lager now. So I got a can of lager out the fridge, and this must have been one of those better days in the summer. I was outside enjoying my lager, poured it into a glass, blah blah blah, enjoyed my lunch with it. Beautiful day, nice out in the garden, and then I just thought, just see if there's any drop left in the can. Just as I got up, just have that last drop.
You had to, didn't
you know where this is going.
You had to, didn't you? You had to.
What a tightwad.
It's your own gluttony that did you in.
And then I thought, what's that lump in the last drop of... And as soon as I spat it out, but by that time, I was going to say he, but I should be gender neutral. This male or female wasp had stung me.
Was it a wasp or a bee?
It was definitely a wasp.
Oh, you said a bee before.
Did I?
Yeah. You
said you're already
trying to...
You don't believe this story now,
inflate the story, aren't you? It'll be a hornet next time you tell it.
There was an old woman who swallowed a fly. But anyway, so I was in A&E, and
not A and B,
or A and wasp. Or A and no, it doesn't, does it? I'm trying to keep up with you. Anyway, we'll never get through this list of 6 at this rate. Suffice to say, when they said it's a 4.5 hour wait, I said, yeah, and they literally said, come back a bit later. So I mean, if I'd been writhing around in agony, I like to think that they would have looked after me.
Yeah.
But by then I thought, no, there's not. I don't think it's life and death, and it's not worth me coming back.
So just so you know, that wasn't somebody battering the house down. That was just my wife opening the door to the. Thank you, darling, with a cup of tea.
Oh, that's nice. I thought it was Santa, but it is a kind of Santa gift. Isn't it?
She'll close it gently now. Hang on.
I can honestly say, for those listening, that was a genuine door shut. That's not you putting a sound effect on afterwards.
Oh, when I watched it, I wish I could have turned the camera around in time just so you could have seen it. I've never seen anything like it in my life, but there you go. I can't say too much. I won't get another cup of tea again.
Exactly. Or you might get a cup of tea, but it might have something in it. A wasp or something.
Yeah, right. It has got a dead wasp floating in the top, actually. As I look. I mean, it's December. I don't know where she got that from, but she must be saving it up, I guess.
She's kept it. Who's doing this? Number 4, another bizarre case. Shall I do this?
Yeah, go on.
A 64-year-old woman. Now, she's not named as being unnamed, if you know what I mean.
Right.
So that's, we've gone back to just not naming them.
So she is named, but they haven't put it in.
Well, presumably, yes. She's not gone for 64 years being called Thingamy. Do you know, your parents really should have given you a name by now. You're 64.
Yeah. So anyway, she sprained her foot
after dropping a 4-foot wooden Santa on it.
I love it.
Would that be a sprain though? That would be a collision injury.
Do you know? It's the explaining it at A&E that I kind of find. It reminds me of a Mel Smith and Griff Rhys-Jones sketch. I don't know if you ever saw this one where they walked into a hospital A&E and Mel Smith was bent over naked. And Griff Rhys-Jones was stood behind him naked when they were draped in a blanket, and they go to the counter and Griff Rhys-Jones says, I wonder if you can help us. He said, I was hoovering in the nude when I fell on this gentleman.
Look, you say that. I am assured. I had a first aid course once at the BBC where this woman swore that someone had come into A&E with a banana. Careful as you sip your tea.
Yeah. I get it.
In one of her orifices that wasn't her mouth.
Yeah.
And she swore, for a laugh, she'd gone sliding down the banisters and landed in a fruit bowl. No word of a lie, I am assured.
That must be the best bit about all of these. Oh, can I just mention, when you mentioned Father Christmas, if anybody knows, I've had this for a number of years. You see my Father Christmas?
Oh, yeah. Can our listeners hear him?
Yeah, they can. And if anybody knows how this works, because he sings We Wish You a Merry Christmas, right? Mm. But if you tickle his belly, he laughs.
Does he interrupt his singing?
Allow me to demonstrate. Are you ready?
Please do.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Okay, more tickling.
Good tidings we bring to you.
Wow.
How does that work?
Tell you what I don't know. Is the short
Witchcraft.
answer. What impresses? No, it's Father Christmas craft. What impresses me is it stays in time, and so it's clearly synced up somehow. There are two tunes, obviously, and it's switching between the two. But the miracle for me is that they're in sync, and it reminds me of someone, an equally boring sound nerd I used to work with, who went to Disneyland, and he worked out that. There was one point where this train pulls up, but it must be a sort of quasi-train. It's on wheels, a bit like a bus. But you realise, as the train moves past you, there are different verses being played out of this song at the same time, all in sync. And then he saw that, because he has to analyse this, and couldn't enjoy it as a spectacle, he saw there were little aerials on top of each carriage, so it was a radio connection.
That is so clever, isn't it? So clever. But
clever
Disney,
but dull.
Disney are good with technology like that, aren't they? Anyway, on to number 5 of our top 6 accidents that people
Not
have
off,
at Christmas.
Mate. This one's
a
yours.
50-year-old woman who'd been standing on a chair hanging Christmas lights fell and struck her rectum on the tree branches.
Oh.
Which it said... Which caused a tear. Now, I didn't know whether it was which caused a tear or which caused a tear.
Or a tear.
I mean...
I thought, well, firstly, she's another nameless woman, we should say.
Yes.
It's got to the age of 50 without a name.
Yes.
So I feel sorry for all these people. I thought you were going to do the obvious rectum joke, which is...
It
rectum.
didn't do him any good.
And finally, before we lose our
early.
licence...
So, I mean, just to be clear...
Yeah.
I mean, I presume that she's naked from the waist down hanging these Christmas decorations, is she? Or...
Well, trust you to get into the nitty-gritty.
But trousers and pants offer a degree of protection that ordinary... I mean, I don't know. Maybe it was a naturist Christmas.
Maybe she... A what Christmas?
A naturist Christmas.
It could have been. Maybe she just slid down the banisters, lost her underwear, ended up in a fruit bowl, got friction burns, and shaved herself in the process. Right, and finally,
Esther.
Yes, a 66-year-old man, brackets nameless,
Yes.
who was working at home. See, there are dangers even working at home. People like you and me. He was left dizzy after the wind reportedly blew him around and around. What?
That's not...
What?
They've only got 5 and they'd written 6 in the headline, haven't they? That's not a Christmas decoration, is it?
But how can wind blow you around when you're working at home? Has he got the door open and the windows all open at Christmas time? Am I missing something?
And how would it blow him around and around unless he's on some kind of carousel or something?
Yes.
I don't know. It's the statistics as well, isn't it? I don't know if you see this. A study from Canada found that people who injured themselves installing Christmas lights spent an average of 15 days in hospital. I mean, that's a pretty serious injury, isn't it? I mean, you went in and had all that stuff done, and you were only in a couple of... My wife had a baby. She was only in a couple of days. 15 days from a
and they're saying that's an average, so it implies there are people with much longer than 15 days. No, don't believe that.
No, I mean, I think it's a bit made up, isn't it, really, all of this sort of stuff. But I mean, basically what they're saying is it's quite dangerous at Christmas time, isn't it, really? And you've just got to be careful, particularly around the fruit bowl. I mean, that's what I've taken away from all of our conversations.
Although how the banana peeled itself, is still not... that mystery is not answered.
It was the speed. She came out at such a rate. She came out 2 stories. It's going to have to remain one of the great mysteries of our podcast, isn't it? Because
sadly, yes.
Time's up, isn't it, for another one? And,
yes.
That's been our Christmas edition of Bull and Specs. Well, if you've had half the fun that we've had doing this... You've had a brilliant time.
Yes, I think we should say, as well as saying the obvious Happy Christmas, Happy New Year from both of us at Bull and Specs, do take care, particularly on the stairs.
Yeah. Should we just give the final word to Santa, do you think? Do you think?
Oh, yeah. Shall I get my beige
get your Santa? Get your beige Santa, and we'll sing you out. Have a good one.
We wish you a Merry